I lost a lot of friends along the way because I couldn't keep up with relationships. People look at anyone successful and they think like, oh, it's just all glorious. But there's a lot of sacrifice and there's a lot of pain and there's a lot of growth.
Have you found this journey to be lonely at times?
Yeah, 100%. My superpower is I don't let things weigh me to a point that I go backwards. I definitely think that what I'm doing is part of my purpose in life.
One of the number one things you need to be successful is that tenacity, is that grit, is that you will just push forward.
I think us as women, especially, we're not secure enough to realize that we can do it on our own. But I really think that if only we would believe in ourselves a little bit more from the get-go, we'd say like, no, I got this, I could do it. The point is that you should be so confident about how you're showing up. Go all in the places that you feel like are right fit for you.
I want to give you the opportunity to leave a final message for our audience. What would that be?
This may sound totally crazy on an episode like this, but...
Welcome to Inspired to Lead. We'd like to thank our friends at Roth & Co., innovators in accounting and business advisory, for making this conversation possible. We're coming to you from New York City. I'm your host, Talia Mashiach. Today, I'm joined by Chayale Kaufman, founder of JCN and Consultwrite Media. Chayale, welcome.
Thank you. So good to be here.
So great. I know you came all the way from Lakewood, right? And I came all the way from Chicago, and we meet in the middle in Manhattan in New York City. Yeah, probably took you as long to drive from Lakewood as it took me to fly from Chicago.
I hate coming to the city. I never, ever come unless I really have to.
Well, we really appreciate it. And so you have such an incredible story. And I'm really, really excited to be able to talk with you and share with our listeners. So let's get started. First of all, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us currently what your business is and what you do.
So I started in working for a national publication as a young girl. Today I run a marketing agency and a company that does digital and print media strategy. So it's a little bit different than your typical marketing company, and I don't know if there's many other businesses that do what we do in the digital and print space. So I run two different companies today that really are like a sister company to each other. One is the Jewish Content Network, and one is Consultwrite Media. So Consultwrite Media creates really dynamic marketing campaigns, political campaigns, non-for-profit campaigns, business branding, anything to really build up an organization or a for-profit, and then market it to the public. So when it comes to marketing to the public, it takes an expertise of understanding how to get the word out there. So we're kind of like a hybrid between a PR agency and a marketing agency. We really do both. They overlap a lot. Some of our clients come to us just for PR and media planning and media budgeting and figuring out like what they need to spend, how to get the word out, what kind of material needs to be seen.
So it's kind of like the strategy part of it.
So that's the whole strategy. Yeah. And Consultwrite either creates that material or the client comes to us with material and we just work with their current marketing agency or with them directly and distribute things properly.
So like you help them figure out which channel would be the optimal channel for them. And do you help them with like measuring the metrics? And
everything from A to Z. So very large scale campaigns.
Yeah.
And we also do small. But we'll do like a hospital who needs like very targeted in their area, targeting everyone in a certain vicinity. And then we'll do a political campaign that needs a specific state to know about them. And then we'll do a non-for-profit that wants the entire world to know about them or the Jewish world to know about them.
That is really cool. I know just in general, I think one of the biggest challenges that entrepreneurs have, and not just entrepreneurs, even companies, right, is their marketing, is figuring out how to create a strategy, understanding what the messaging should be, and then channel. And those channels are like evolving so quickly.
Exactly. There's so much out there.
Yeah.
They don't know most of them. People come to us with their little shopping list and I'm like, okay, you're going to trust us? I'm going to completely revamp this. They have no idea what they should be spending. And the truth is that what got me into starting this business is actually with the messaging. The beginning of the online world, which was, let's say, 12 years ago, nobody really understood the digital space. It was brand new to the Jewish world. And people would come to me and send me their full page ad. And they'd be like, how do I get this out there? And I realized that what you're going to say in print is not what you say online.
Yeah.
You know, things are totally different. And I started just helping people figure out, not even as a business, figuring out, how to say it right.
Is that like innate to you? Is it just like something that comes to your head? Like I talked about what that skill is on the messaging part of it.
So it's definitely in my blood. My father is today a fundraising consultant, but it really started with fundraising is about messaging. So I feel like it's very much like, it was always like part of our family discussion on how to communicate. I think a lot of it is communication And that does come innate to me. So I think I could see things in a way that is obvious. It's not about necessarily the smartest hook or things like that, but it's more about stating something that is so obvious and so clear that gets people to understand so quickly what you're trying to say to them.
Sometimes, especially, I feel like entrepreneurs that are so deep. I always talk about you're either in the jar or outside the jar, right? And so when you build your own company and you're in it for a really long time, you're inside the jar and you can't really even see what everyone else is seeing. And so even when I have like a new team member, a new employee that comes, I always tell them, I say, okay, before you're inside the jar with us, I want you to make a list of everything that you think is like, doesn't make sense to you or is not clear, or even our messaging, like what we do or how we do it. And if that wasn't like obvious and you needed to ask again, wait, can you explain it to me? That's a problem, because most of your potential customers or the audience that you're trying to speak to, they're not going to sit and learn. You got them for 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 30 seconds, right?
Yeah. I see that all the time, and it like nags on me. Like, not everybody knows what you're trying to say. So say something that everybody can understand.
Yeah.
You know?
So that's amazing. And I also think that everybody struggles with how much marketing should I do? Because there are definitely metrics, and I'd love to hear a little bit more about that from you, but it's sometimes you feel like there's a lot of money. Like I can remember just when I was doing a lot with my software for event service, and we would go to these big conferences and we'd pay all this money and get a booth, and it was like, $20,000 were done, and you count how many leads, or, you put out your ads. Yes, you can measure it in some way on a metric, but it is expensive.
Yes.
And it's also, sometimes it takes time, right? 100%. Until you figure out which are the best messaging and what works. And so maybe share with us just a little bit on if there's an entrepreneur out there and they have a company and they're just starting and they really want to get their name out there, or let's do the company first and then we could do the nonprofit, because I know you do a lot in nonprofit. What could they expect to spend on, what would you tell them? What would you tell them? First of all, what would you tell them the steps would be? And then what would you tell them they should budget?
Okay, so if it's somebody that's like a service-based business or something that they're looking to build on their own, that's really about them as a person before they're expanding into like a big business, right? They start off, they're one person. How do you grow?
Right.
You grow with demand.
Yeah.
How do you create demand? Is by creating a demand for you. That's what just like my theory would be. So starting off that way is free marketing. You don't pay a penny. You start establishing for yourself a personal brand. I feel like personal branding is something that people try to avoid it, especially people that don't like to be in the public, or they don't like to talk about themselves, or they don't like to share, what we were just talking about before. But it's so important, because for people to trust you, they have to feel like they know you a little bit and they've seen things that you've said, right? And then they could buy into everything else that you're sharing with them and that you're actually charging them for.
So for example, LinkedIn. You could come across like an expert in your field.
So even if it's not an expert, because you're
knowledgeable.
Yeah, knowledgeable. Yeah. So I always say LinkedIn is like gold, either LinkedIn or those that want to go on Instagram, but places that your audience grows as you develop better content, right? You become someone that's believable. So before you spend anything, it's all about developing a personal brand.
Like building trust?
Yeah, because once they get to know you over there, 50% of the sale is done by the time they call you. That means they call you because they already feel like, I connect with this person.
That makes a lot of sense.
That's always step one.
Okay. And then what about if you have a product that you've come up with, and whether it's a piece of software, whether it's clothing, whether it's, I don't know, some, great innovation. What would you recommend?
So it's more of a struggle.
Yeah.
You have to sell. You have to keep trying to figure out ways how to sell, right? So I do believe it's like a multi-prong. It's not like a one answer. There's that personal branding attached to what you're selling. Yeah. Absolutely. There's finding influencers that match your brand and that you're proud of to represent you. Then there's shows that you're going to want to go to. And then, of course, there's the general advertising. That way people have heard about you. So there's the print campaigns, and there's the billboards, and there's the little bit of social media you're going to be doing. It's really in order to launch something successfully, you need to invest yourself, like you're selling a piece of yourself.
So it's interesting. I'll tell you, and I would get a really hard time sometimes from my board about at different phases of the company. You're not spending enough on marketing, you're not doing enough marketing, and we're a software company. So as we rolled out to new audiences, so we expanded in 2022 to the film and TV space productions, and we made some changes to our platform in order to be able to do payments for this space. Well, I felt like first I needed to do a couple of movies or a couple of TV shows that actually used our software that would be references before I spent all this money to go market it. And then like leads would come in and they'd say, oh, how many movies have you guys used the software for? Do we have references? And then I wouldn't have any. And I felt like all that money would be wasted.
100%.
So I felt that we needed to kind of do more of a sort of one-on-one campaign where we're literally calling people, finding those out there that are the early adopters or willing to do it, or sometimes even a campaign to pay people to try your product.
Exactly.
Become your references. And
your
then,
endorsements.
Right. And then once you've gotten like a place where, okay, you've got your references, you've established your product, you figure out your kinks, because also, what if you come out with a product or a service or whatever it is, and then you still haven't like figured out, because every time you're going to iterate on it a little bit, and then you like blast market it, all these people want it, and you didn't iterate on it, you didn't get your like the kinks out of it to begin with. It's like at the right time.
There's really no like perfect roadmap that I could say works for everybody. That's why anytime like someone would call me, it's a conversation. I need to understand you. I want to understand your business. In the beginning, when I was first working with just non-for-profits, and then we moved on to business, and the first time someone called me to possibly brand their company, and I remember thinking like, I can't do this. Like I only know non-for-profits. And then after talking to them, I'm like, everything's the same in that sense. Like it's really just like shifting. Once you understand like the psychology and you understand what needs to happen, you just plug in business, non-for-profit. As far as like what the end game needs to be, right? The roadmap's going to be a little bit different, but it's like this whole, there's so much of the same, meaning it's human. It's all about like connecting and communicating properly, human to human. So sometimes it's a business, sometimes it's a non-for-profit, right? And the roadmap will be different, but the beginning and the end game is so the same.
You know, it's interesting that you parallel non-for-profit and business on the marketing side, but I always parallel those in business in general. I think your customers may be different. Your revenue is different. Like, you're not looking for profitability, you're looking for impact, right, as your bottom line metric. But other than that, you have to operate in so many of the similar ways. And if you want to run a really good nonprofit, running it like a business is going to, and that discipline is going to be.
Exactly.
And as we talk about marketing, it's still about communicating a certain message. Yeah. And it's whether you're looking to bring in dollars, you're looking to bring volunteers, right? You're looking to create greater impact, right? So it is communicating. So let's talk a little bit about the non-for-profit space, because I feel like that is one of the things that you're really well known for, that you've like dominated and took a lot of organizations to a whole new level. So tell us like just a little bit about what it is to be in that space, especially for the Jewish community, and maybe like some of the best campaigns, like what was like really, sometimes it's like something just catches. I'd love, if you have a favorite, that would be great to share.
Okay, so I think I connect so well with the non-for-profits because it connects to me as a person. Like they start talking and I start hearing what they're doing, and like immediately I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm a magnet towards it. You know what I mean? I want to help you. So I want to help promote it. I want to figure out the best way that people are going to feel the same way I am. I could like tear up on a conference call. You know what I mean? They're starting to explain to me their impact. I know I can be touched, and I think that I put my writers, my designers, they know that whatever we're creating and whatever we're distributing publicly, there needs to be an emotional piece. You'll never see a campaign come out of my office that's just like quirky or like try to figure it out, like code-like or overly clever. You won't see that. People come to us when they want to see like depth. They want to see connection, and we've done it over and over and over again. And I think if I can connect to it, I can impact my team to connect to it, and then hopefully everyone else that sees it.
Well, I'd love to just take us back a little bit, and then I have a number of other questions that I want to talk about, because I think marketing is so fascinating as one of the drivers. I want to talk a little bit about how AI has impacted that in the last, couple of years, which is huge. But I want to get to know you a little bit more. So first of all, just tell us a little bit about your family, where you live.
I live in Lakewood. I grew up in Muncie. I went through the regular Beis Yaakov system and then went off to Israel for seminary, Bnos Chava. I think while in Israel, something like clicked in my head that made me decide that I don't know what I want to do, but I want to create change. I think I was so moved by learning there. Like I was so inspired. And that's really where like, I remember where I was even at the moment, like making this decision, like I'm going to be someone better. I want to do something that's going to impact. I always thought I was going to be a work in geriatrics for older people. I used to always visit nursing homes and sing to the patients. And that's really where, until I went to seminary, I thought that's what I was going to do, go into music therapy or something. And then there is when I was like, I don't know, I want to do something that's going to impact and change.
Was that a message that you heard as a child from your parents or from your teachers or from your friends? Was that you're going to do something big in this world? Like is that a message that anyone else told you that you now turn that on for yourself in Israel?
The way we grew up, my parents definitely demanded of us to step up. I definitely grew up in a home that there were high expectations and low tolerance for like anything but. And all of us, like all of my siblings, we all really do push. We were encouraged and we were pushed. Definitely without us even realizing. I don't think I felt it as a girl, but like looking back, sometimes I think like my mother was pretty good.
I think we underestimate the messages that we hear as children, right? Because my parents would always say to me, you can do anything you put your mind to. I remember, even in my bat mitzvah speech that my mom said is, Talia, you're a can-do person.
That's so cute.
I didn't pay as much attention, but now I'm, much older. And I remember it so clearly as I reflect back. And I think that because I heard those messages, those were the messages I still tell myself. Wow. I can do whatever I put my mind to.
I tell my kids that all the time. I don't think my parents said it to me in their words. I think I saw it more in their actions. Both my parents, like they had this, like my mother like has this demeanor still. It's like she doesn't say anything and yet she demands that respect. Mm-hmm. She's just a very elevated woman in that sense. Like you want her to be proud of you. My father was an extremely creative person and we also gained tremendously from like those conversations and the eye-opening discussions, and we weren't put into a box and we were almost like appreciated for our creativity. We're all
How many
creative,
siblings
artistic.
Are you?
We're six. Yeah.
And where are you in the lineup?
I'm third.
Yeah. How many brothers and how many sisters?
I have 2 sisters, 3 brothers.
Okay.
So, and we're all very independent and in some sort of creative space. So I think that was something that pushed us through. Another thing I think is that scholastically, like schoolwork didn't come easy for me. And I had friends that were very, very smart. Like my group of friends were all like straight A, straight up, and I had to push myself. I always, I think as a young girl, like getting used to pushing myself so that I could achieve like those 90s and the 100 or, anything over an 85, I think it really did. It gave me the skills to be like, no, like it proved to me that I can get there. That was a pretty...
I'm smiling because I literally just had a conversation with my 15-year-old who she has a number of honors classes, and one of them, this chemistry class, is really hard for her, and she probably should be in like the middle one, but if she switches to that, then because of the schedule, she has to go down in some of her other classes. And I'm having this conversation with her. I'm like, you're super smart. You could get some extra help. Push yourself, stay in the honors chemistry class so that you could stay in all your other classes. She's telling me, but why? It's much easier to go to the bottom one and I can get the higher level work. And she's kind of just explaining to me all the reasons why she should go. And I was trying to, and I'm smiling because the message I said to her is, I said, there's going to be so many times in life where you could like just push yourself a little bit and you can accomplish such great things.
I always had to push myself.
As opposed to like taking the easy way out.
Yeah.
So I'm like smiling because it just was the conversation I just had with her. So,
it really, like your childhood really impacts your future. It's not even a question.
It for sure does. Okay, so you went to seminary, something turned on for you that you're going to do something bigger.
Yeah.
And what happened when you came back?
So I came back. I don't know if, again, there were certain conversations and maybe we'll talk about it later, but I came back. My 10th grade teacher actually called me and asked me if I know what I want to do, if I have a job. Her husband ran a publication, a national paper. And I said, you were she was my Tuk teacher. It was the biggest joke. I literally failed through Tuk. And I'm like,
she must have seen something in you, though.
Right. And I said, you don't remember my marks? Like, you sure you want me working for you? That was one class. I couldn't push it over a Dalit. I couldn't. She's like, you think I remember your marks? I just remember your personality. And that really, it shows, not everything is about, there's so much you can push yourself to become if you have the motivation and you realize that there's so much more to just, that mark as a girl.
I also think that, and this goes back to also a conversation I had with my 15-year-old recently, is that the impression that you leave as to who you are, even in high school, it stays with you. Yes, you can continue to evolve, but there's a certain part of you that people will pick up and they'll know. If you talk to people, so I'm 48 now, and I see people in Chicago all the time that I know from high school, and they'll say, "Oh, I know your mom." To my kids, "I knew your mom in high school." Like they'll still associate
As
that same personality that's there, and even if you could like do a big evolution of yourself, there's still something that will stay with you.
Yeah, I definitely think that I always had a fire in me. I did, even as a young girl. Like young and even through high school, my friends will always tell me like, "Oh, please, like, we're not surprised." Or I always say like, "Come on, like I fit." Remember how you had to teach me that,
Yeah.
And they'd be like, "Yeah, but do you remember you got in front of the class and you just like literally sold history totally wrong and we all got the same wrong answers because you convinced us all that this was the right."
There you go. Your communication
exactly.
skills.
I was like, no, like the teacher meant this. She didn't mean that,
I also think like the drive, the personality.
I was always very driven. Yeah. So like I would, concerts, productions, anything extracurricular. I would do anything. Like I loved being busy, getting things done. I was like the neighborhood babysitter.
That's the best.
I'd move into people for 10 days, no problem.
When people say I'm looking to hire someone, executive assistant or whatever else, someone who's going to be responsible, and they're looking for someone, kind of right out of school. I said, go find out who the president of the class was, who ran the committees,
who got
things done, and that's the person that you want to hire for that type of role. So
100%.
That's great. Okay, so you came back. Your teacher called you.
Yeah. So that's where I started. I was like my boss's secretary, and then at a certain point, I wanted a raise, and I asked him like, what can I do to bring more value to the business? And he said, start selling ads, and that's when my love of sales really developed and my love of communication. I am maybe sociable, like I can talk to people, but I'm not an extrovert. Like at a party, I'm the quieter one on the side, but I'm having conversation, definitely as an adult. But there was something about being on that phone, faceless, and just like developing relationships with people and communicating, making them happy, selling them, to like really forming these relationships. It's amazing. Like I have people that I still deal with today that I dealt with since I was 19.
Wow.
And they stuck with me on my journey, and I'm servicing them on a whole different level now. But back then I sold them an ad.
I want to ask you something, because selling an ad is probably one of the hardest things. Like people and you're talking about it with such happiness and passion, and everyone else who's like had to do that job is like, oh my God, that was like one of the worst jobs ever. So it's awesome, but it's connecting.
I was
for
so
me.
driven.
But you're also, I see you're someone who feels, who cares, and just like you were talking before about how you understand a nonprofit and you want to understand their mission, you're drawn to it. I am guessing that when you sold an ad, it wasn't just like looking at, okay, how do I get my commission check, but you probably actually asked the business what they're trying to achieve, what they want to do,
sure.
And they felt that, and it was more of like you were helping them versus them helping you.
Very much.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
very much. Which is really how it brought me to the next stage
Yeah.
in developing this company. To the creatives and the writing and the strategy. It was all about like, now that I understand so much about you, like, let's do this better.
How many years were you selling, and what company were you at?
I was at the TED.
And how many years did you sell ads for them?
About 15 years.
15 years.
Yeah,
so that's a really long time to build a really big relationship.
Yeah.
And did you move up in that company?
Yeah, I ended up running this. I was sales manager, and I actually was part of the whole putting out the paper every single week. I didn't go home till it was on the press. That would mean midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock, no matter when it was. But that was me. Like I loved it. It wasn't.
It's like adrenaline rush.
It was
for you?
adrenaline every single week, and I never got tired of that.
That's amazing.
There was like an energy and excitement every single week. I worked for an amazing person. He's still super close. I speak to him almost every single week. He also gave me that ability to just take control for what I needed to take control. And I think that in like a leader, that is such a valuable trait, not making the people that you trust wait for your answer. And I feel like today, like I think about that, like the people that I bring onto my team are people that I trust enough that you can actually make a decision on your own. You don't need to wait for me. And I learned so much of that in the company that I was at, that like I never felt like I had to wait for his approval. I needed to ask approval. He developed a certain trust in me. I developed a confidence because of it. And I was able to like be extremely quick, get the sale in, get it done. We were doing this every single week after week, and there was no time. It was like we were always on deadline. And in my space that I'm doing now, it's deadline times like a million, because when it comes to digital also, it's like literally on demand, things changing like by the second. And also my team is like, they're amazing. They know how to make decisions. They know how to react quickly. And I feel like the longer that gap is between what a client wants and making it happen, the more unhappy the client is.
Yep.
So
it is such a fast. Well, I want to just comment on a couple of things that you shared, because first of all, I would love to hear what you have to say, but I think that even people who are super uncomfortable picking up the phone and trying to like cold call someone, doing that and learning how to do that and getting comfortable with that, I feel like is such a really good skill. Like, again, making yourself uncomfortable and overcoming
it's a
it
base
is
for everything.
So I wanted you to share, because even if someone doesn't want to go into selling ads, I just feel like that it's still such a great way to like flex a muscle and build a muscle that is like really important in business.
First of all, it creates a tremendous amount of humility. You get killed. You really do. There are people that are not nice, and there are people that are going to try to shut you out, and there are people that are going to degrade you. And I definitely went through all of that, and I feel like it like teaches you how to work on your midos. It teaches you how not to react. It teaches you how to breathe deep and say, I got this, I'm okay. When I started like going out to meet people in person, in the beginning it was all just phone. And then at a certain point I realized like, wait, if I want to get like really big contracts, I need to show them I'm going to actually come down to your office and meet with you. I've been chased by dogs. I've been like doors slammed on me. I have great stories, but it really teaches you humility. It teaches you like not giving up in everything you're doing. You're selling. So like, yeah, flexing that muscle of not being scared or ashamed when it's something you really believe in. And oh my gosh, did I believe in what I was selling? You have to.
That's amazing. I love that. I think that's amazing advice. And then I think the next thing I'd love to touch on that you said that I thought was really fascinating was about the trust. So I think those are the types of employees that you want to have. Yeah. But I'd also say that I think that takes time. I know even when I hire executives, I just have a new head of finance starting, and I even said straight out, and I worked with the guy before him for 10 years. And so I said, my goal, and I have this with all my executives, is that they feel exactly the same way, that they could make those decisions. But I right up front say, look, it's going to take time for you to earn that. Like that's something that's earned. And so you'll run more things by me in the beginning, and then we'll build that confidence, because I think sometimes people make a mistake is that they hire someone very senior and they feel like, oh, I should just let them make all the decisions. Otherwise, if I say anything, they're going to trust them. And it's like, no. They got to earn that. Right. And that's a conversation that you have. Like, I want you to be able to have the freedom to do that, and you need to earn that. You want to get
them there.
Exactly. It has to be comfortable.
On your terms.
Exactly. Yeah. Not just like open that door right away. Not. And so the job is to install that confidence, and then their job is to earn, that trust.
Right.
And then the other thing that I heard something really great that I thought was such a great piece of advice is that when people are looking for sort of guidelines in terms of what decisions they can make on their own and what decisions they should ask, is that if it's a decision that you can fix within a few hours, go do it. If it's a decision that if it goes wrong is going to create a huge havoc and blow up, and so we're not going to be able to fix it in a few hours, then those are decisions that you should come and discuss. I thought that was like a pretty good way to give people some flexibility. Yeah. Okay, so I want to take us now. So you're working closely. You're there 15 years.
Yeah.
That's really hard to leave. So what was it? Just like, you had your seminary, you were like, I could do something bigger. You went and you had this great job for 15 years that you loved. Yeah. So what was the key thing that got you to say, I'm going to go start something on my own?
I was building on the side a little bit, and it came to a point when it was like, I wasn't finding myself 100% in either of them. And I was like, I have to make a decision.
But what got you to even start the side?
Well, what happened was when I started realizing that the digital world was evolving in the non-Jewish world, and the print world was staying the same in the print world. In the Jewish world, the print world was where it was, and the digital space, the non-Jewish world, was way ahead of us. And I saw that it was just a matter of time that digital is going to enter the Jewish world. I wanted to learn it first so I can service people better. And I wanted to develop something first and be ahead of the game. That way I can help my clients even better. So that's really.
Did they ask you? Were you like selling them ads, and then they said, "Oh, do you know about this digital space?"
They didn't know about
it.
They didn't know about it.
So you realized this was like an open opportunity.
Yeah, that's really.
Okay, so then how was that conversation the day that you had to tell this 15-year-old long?
So I stayed for 15 years, but already like probably 14 years in, I told them that like I have to merge out. I want to build my own company, and I stayed on at that point, but a little bit more of like manager, not as much living the business as I was for so many years before. And I was phasing myself out, training the person under me to really like take a lead. She was petrified. She's like, I can't do this. I can't do this. I'm like, you can. You're going to be amazing.
Good.
And by the time like I left, she was confident to really like run it on her own. And then I just like went full swing into both my businesses.
Okay, so let's talk about those early stages.
Okay.
I imagine that your communication, your marketing, and strategy are great for yourself because you do that for others. But when those leads came in and when those clients came, were you solo at the time? Like, how did you talk to us about the journey of like day one starting, and then how you've built it into a pretty significant company today?
Okay, so today I am solo with an amazing team around me. At that point, I did have some partners that came in, and then we transitioned out. But I did build it with a tremendous team and another, with the other two partners.
Can we talk about partners for a second? Because
Okay.
I'll tell you, even I had this conversation like with my son who is building a company, and he's talked about partners, and we talk about this a lot. There's a lot of there are advantages to partners and there's disadvantages to partners. I think that ultimately, most of the time I see that eventually partners, they separate.
part ways,
Yep,
yeah.
they part ways, and especially if it's family or friends,
Yeah.
it's usually you are picking one or the other. Can you share maybe, because I think a lot of people think that when they start a company, they need a partner. They don't want to do it alone. They want someone else to talk to.
I'm going to say something that I think us as women, especially, we're not secure enough to realize that we can do it on our own. And we almost feel like we need like a male, like a partner, right? To like take the blame, carry the brunt, and that way you could do what you like doing. But I really think that you look around at like women-run businesses, like if only we would believe in ourselves a little bit more from the get-go, we'd say like, no, I got this, I could do it. Looking back, like I see, like there were certain things that I would rely on other partners to take care of. And then
And your partners were men?
Yeah.
Okay.
And did I always agree? But it was like, no, that was like, I'm not getting involved. Like I'm going to stick with my territory and be great at what I was doing. But in retrospect, I think that so much of our insecurity as women, like we don't naturally have an ego like men do. Like men are much more naturally built that way, so we do have that little bit of insecurity in us. And I think that impacts our decisions when like, really, we are so capable and so able to really get the job done how we want to see it. And yeah, partnerships are very tricky.
So let's say somebody feels that they really do need to have a partner, what's something else they can do instead of taking like a formal partner?
Find people that are mentors, that are advisors, people that you really, really trust, that either for pay or they believe in you so much. It could even be a spouse, right? Whoever it is that's going to help you and is committed to see you to a finish line way quicker than bringing on a partner. A partner sometimes it could also create like a laziness in you. You feel like there's somebody else, right? But if you're so fired up about something and you feel that you can do this, don't feel like the only way to that finish line is through a partnership. There are so many other creative ways that,
It's interesting. I don't know if this was in your case, but I find often that women, the partners they're bringing in have to do with the financial side. Because I see in general, women don't have the confidence around money and understanding it. And it's something that we do not teach well enough in our schools, in our seminaries. And it's kind of like,
we're scared of it.
Right. There's like, my husband takes care of the money,
Right.
or my male partner takes care of the money.
Right.
I want to focus on the creative side. I do the operations. But
even today, I struggle with that. When my
Yep.
advisor says, what are your goals for this month? And I'm like, don't talk to me about the goals.
Right.
Like, what do you mean don't talk to you about the goals? Because you're going to kill my passion. Like, I
Yep.
just want to do this because I love what I'm doing. No, you need accountability.
Yes.
But numbers and money and budgets are scary. They are. But it doesn't mean you can't hire somebody to do things like that.
Yes, but I would also say that I'm a big advocate that women need to, every business owner, but I just find that women are more scared of it. They need to understand the numbers in their business. They
Yeah.
need to
Oh my
understand how
gosh,
their
yeah.
business makes money, how their business spends money in order to properly run the business.
Yeah.
And it's like one of those things where it's like, if I don't look at it, then everything's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And if I look at it, then there's a problem. And you're basically running on a completely reactive cycle.
Yeah.
And you never can pull back and be proactive.
Yeah.
And it is amazing that when someone does take that initiative and they get over that hurdle, how they see their business in a different way. So I would say for myself, I don't think I was like amazing at numbers, but definitely probably pretty good. But I focused very early, and I'm on my 5th business now. So in my first business, I focused really hard on like really forcing myself to learn what's a P&L, what's a balance sheet, what's my cash forecast. And when I started my next companies, and I did a company that it didn't even make sense. I look back and now I'm like, why would I even have thought that would have made money? Like if I would have, well, I didn't take the time to really do a business model, a financial model, and look at, okay, this is a great idea, but how much can I sell and how many people would need to buy and how much cash would it take and how much time and does this make sense?
Exactly.
Right? Barely anybody does that, which is like a big thing.
And if you don't like numbers and you're just so made of like passion,
you're like, everyone's going to buy what I want. Right.
No, and it like makes
it's hard.
You feel
it's like you don't even want to
sick.
look at it. Right.
Yeah.
And that I think is a big part. But look, there's fractional CFOs, right? That services that can help you come in and help you learn your numbers and read your numbers.
We built
accountants, right?
We built incredible tech to understand our numbers. Like insane. Like every move, every dollar is. If I wanted to see it today, as of 10 minutes ago, I have a dashboard and I see exactly what's making money, what's not, where our numbers are holding. It's groundbreaking, it's eye-opening, but it took me so much courage to get to a place to want to really understand it so well.
Good for you.
And know like what our focus has to be and what everyone's goals have to be.
Like what makes money, what doesn't make money, and what employees are bringing return and what are not.
Yeah.
So what's could be like a big aha if you move from being blind completely to understanding how your business is making money and what the real expenses are and who's driving the top line to finally having visibility into everything. Like what are some of the things that you could expect like an entrepreneur or a business leader?
I'll tell you before we even get there, I feel like because probably a lot of people listening are younger in business, I feel like if somebody doesn't have that drive, right? It's not even about the numbers in the beginning. Going into building a business, people could disagree with me, but I don't know if the numbers, right, is so critical before you establish success. Now, success doesn't necessarily mean numbers. It means like results for what you're trying to sell.
That there's a demand for the product that you want.
Right. So I
so
feel
you have
like
to test that first.
It's more than testing. It's becoming good at something, right? Once you're good at something and you know that I'm able to move the needle for this person, or I'm able to, whatever it is, sell a certain product. People
are willing to buy what you want,
right?
But you're selling.
The numbers, I think, is really now again. People are like, no, it all starts with numbers. I don't believe so. I really believe that you first look at all these successful businesses. They started from just people loving what they were doing, or people discovering something that they are able to do that nobody else was, or creating a product that they did in their kitchen. All of a sudden, it's like, oh my gosh, people love it. That's the first step.
I totally appreciate what you're saying, but here's why I would disagree, is because you're looking at all of the businesses that taking that approach were successful, which is probably about 10% who take that approach, and the 90% of people who just had a really good idea, but didn't first to sit down, think about, wait, this could be a good idea, but how much would people have to pay and how many people would I have to sell it to in order for it to make sense? They didn't do that. So then they had this great idea, and then
people just didn't like it.
They
thought everyone would like it, but nobody
but
liked
also
it.
like a lot, like they could have a year or two later they ran out of cash. It was a good idea that people liked, but they couldn't sell it, right? So maybe they needed to sell it for $100 and get 100 people for it to make sense. And they could only it was a great idea, but they could only sell it for $30 and they sold it to 20 people. My only point is that we're not seeing all those people that go out of business, right? They had great stuff or whatever, but they didn't have enough cash to last them along. That's usually what happens is you have something really great,
that's an inventory,
right? And you need to iterate on it, but you didn't have enough cash to like take you long enough. Or a lot of times I think people get stuck, which everybody does, and we're gonna get into that, like the hardest things you have to overcome, and then they quit. And they go and say, oh, well, I'll just do another idea, because they got to something really hard about it and they got thrown on the ground and they didn't want to pick themselves back up and get through the hard stuff. But not every
business is going to be successful.
That's true.
But if you look at the businesses that are successful, I do believe that's where it started. Meaning, there are those that are going to fail because either demand wasn't that high, they priced it wrong, things like that. But I do believe that the ones that are successful are because the people that started were obsessed with it, and they figured out how to monetize it. The ones that, you know what I mean?
Would you say that if your sales and marketing are amazing, but your product is just okay?
No.
But your product is amazing, but your sales and marketing is not okay. Which company is going to do better than the other? Curious what you think.
I think it's all about product.
So, but if you have a great product, but you don't get it out there,
You have to
don't
get
do
it
that-
out there. But
right?
I'm saying if
you're saying it's
someone's
both.
choosing,
But if you had, if you
look
had
at
an
any of
okay
these-
product,
Okay.
okay product, not a
Yeah.
bad, okay product, but you had amazing sales and marketing, or you had a
you mean market, not sales. You have amazing marketing.
but you have amazing marketing, but you have salespeople, whatever it is that you're out there pushing it. Let's take marketing. You have amazing marketing because if you have great marketing and you don't have salespeople to convert it or
Right.
whatever, it depends on what your product is.
Right.
But or if you have an okay product, no, I'm sorry, if you have a great product, but then you did not invest in marketing. Who's going to make more money? You think?
Maybe short term, the first one, but like if people are starting to realize that your product is garbage, then it's going to fail. I think I've seen companies that have come out with the most outstanding marketing. They've fallen off the map because their product was not as good, like it didn't live up to the expectation. But people that are completely obsessed with good product, and that's what their marketing is good, but they're obsessed with making their product amazing, I think it's a much healthier, it's a healthier process.
I love that.
Yeah.
See, it's like, no, I great. We're bringing all different perspectives here. No, I think that I hear you. I guess you know what? I'm so much in the software space.
It's so different than what I do. I don't deal with software.
Right. And I feel like I've seen really bad software,
Right.
but they had amazing sales and marketing, and they're number one. And those were an incredible piece of software, but their sales and marketing were nowhere near as great. They're just way behind at number 4, number
I
5.
know.
But if you talk about product, but let's talk about the non-profit
Yeah,
space, because
okay.
what is key? Obviously, people have to relate to the cause, but there's so many amazing causes out there, right?
Right.
So talk about what a successful marketing campaign looks like for a not-for-profit.
Okay, I think getting to the core of what your organization stands out for and getting the people who are invested in your organization to become the ambassadors of it as well. Those two pieces are what creates a successful fundraising campaign, for example. A non-for-profit that does marketing has to be truthful. Extremely, because people can read through things right away. You start, sharing empty promises or blowing up what you really have succeeded, and within, in the beginning, everyone's like, wow, but then the truth really does prevail. So being extremely consistent and careful about what you're saying about your organization. And people, like what you said, non-for-profits sometimes think we can't spend money on marketing, it's such a waste. But no, it's business development. You know what I mean? You want donors to give you more. You're going to have to invest in a beautiful brand. You want people to feel proud that they're associated with an organization. You're going to have to come up with ways for them to feel I'm actually putting money into a place that is having such huge impact. Nobody wants to be supporting a place that is there's an echo chamber. I have no idea what's going on there. It's quiet, the public. People want to feel they're giving to places that are impacting. I recently had an organization come to me that said, we're waiting for somebody. We met with somebody who wants to give us a lot of money, but he's like, no, I just never heard of you guys. What are you doing? This organization's around for 2 decades.
Yeah.
Okay, and the guy's in his, let's say, mid-40s. He never heard about it. Why? Because they don't present themselves in a way that today's marketing world is presented as, which is pulled together, sophisticated. It's not like it used to be. Today, to make an impact, you need to look pulled together, both in business and in a non-for-profit. And it doesn't mean being extravagant. It means being clean, showing up, presenting well. Material is well done, not to an extreme, but for somebody to buy in to support you. They want to feel like these people have it together. They're capable, they're competent, they're efficient. I want to support it. So it's just like buying a product.
Yeah, I think the same thing, like doing business with somebody, right?
Exactly.
How do you present yourself?
Right.
What do you look like? What do you do?
How could you fundraise if
it's
your
your
material
face.
is old?
Right.
You come with a 1990 brochure, even a 2005 brochure. You can't show up that way to a donor.
So there's some controversy in the digital world for religious, the religious community, where people are really trying to get off of Instagram, or certainly don't ever want to be on TikTok to begin with, right? There's definitely a pushback. There's a big movement to get our kids off of that, to get adults off of it, and in many cases looked at as kind of a negative. How do you deal with that? What are you seeing in terms, because they are incredibly powerful channels.
Yeah.
But what's your take? What are you seeing amongst our community, and where that's going and what's happening? And if somebody is insistent on not being in those
Oh, yeah.
channels,
Oh, yeah.
will they fall behind
No.
because they're not?
No, absolutely not. You can have You can draw the line wherever you're comfortable drawing the line, because the point is that you should be so confident about how you're showing up. And if you're showing up somewhere that you're not confident because you're insecure or you feel like I shouldn't be there, people may question, then don't do it. Go all in the places that you feel like are right fit for you.
So is that also go for a business? If
100%.
somebody doesn't want to be on Instagram,
100%.
they can still build a successful business not on Instagram.
Yeah, it'll be different.
Well, can you share a little bit more what that means?
It depends what your business is. A makeup artist who's not
Yeah.
on Instagram will definitely feel more challenged, right? Because people can't just find her. But many other businesses could do just fine off Instagram.
So would you recommend it if somebody really, let's say if they have let's take a makeup artist, because I think that's a really great example, and they have high hopes for really building a big business and serving a community, but they don't want to go on Instagram. Like, what would you tell them?
Create from your client base a WhatsApp community. All your clients, make sure that they save your number and they get to see your status. And make sure you get all your clients' email addresses and do follow-up email marketing. I mean, there's so many other ways that you can talk and share and that they could forward, take screenshots, as opposed to going on Instagram. I know a lot of businesses. Recently, an artist called me and she's stuck because she feels like her business, like she wants to get to the next level. And again, I don't work with this level business really. You know what I mean? Like someone like that, which is very different than like someone that really needs to reach a broader world and has the funds to. But let's say she doesn't want to go on Instagram and she's like, can an artist succeed if she's not on Instagram? I was like, absolutely. Of course you could. Choose the business platforms, right? Create like a way to capture people's email addresses on your website. Do a contest, build a list. I mean, there's so many other creative ways to do it. Showcase at a local event. Like there's, you know what I mean? Like there's ways to get out there if you don't want to.
I think that's great. And I thank you for sharing. I think that is a big question that people ask in terms of marketing. And is it the same for non-for-profits? Do you feel that they can do the same?
Yeah, for sure.
And maybe some of their audience that they're trying to reach, could it be a negative that they're on social media?
For sure. Yeah, 100%.
So you take all of these pieces into account when you're dealing with the community.
100%. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, that everyone's road path is so different, even though the end game is like, the end is so the same.
Right.
But how to get there, it's choosing the right ingredients to create the product that they want to create, you know?
So kind of on our final topic, and then we're going to talk about you as an individual, I'd love to hear how you think AI is impacting the market, because it's definitely, I mean, I'm on it like the last, I'd say 60 days really intensely, because we have a huge initiative to bring it into every part of our company next year. And I feel like as the CEO, I need to understand, it's a completely different way of thinking and understanding. If I'm going to lead in that, I need to understand it for myself. So I'm overwhelmed at what it is, and I'm a software person, so like what it is and what's possible. And I was telling you, like, it's just like reminds me, I was probably, I think I was about 17 when 15 to 17, somewhere around when like the internet like started. And I can remember, you're younger than me, so I don't know if this was like way past your time. But so I remember when I was probably about 15 or 16 years old and the internet was just becoming popular, and there was AOL and it was a dial-up, and you would dial up and you would like these horrible noise, and you'd wait first of all like a few minutes until it connected. And then I can even remember like I remember when Amazon came out and the concept of buying online, but you'd sit for a really long time and wait for it. But it was like you couldn't even think about what all the possibilities were at that time.
You couldn't use your phone when you were on the internet.
It was right.
I had that in my apartment. I remember I'd be like, hey, I'm going online.
So it feels so similar, right? That is how I feel. I kept saying
feel
this.
That?
I feel that now with AI. That same where, wow, there's so much that is going to come from this that we don't even know how it's going to change our lives. Yeah, and then it's like slower than what I would like to be in certain things when it gets stuck or you're waiting and it's analyzing. But I do see what has happened on the marketing side of things and the things that we've been able to do internally. So I'm really curious what your take is, and how you see it impacting for yourself, for your business, for people who are running agencies, but also what people can do for themselves.
Yeah, tons. First of all, like it hit me when it was Rosh Hashanah, and I remember like logging into my programs that I use for AI and saying like it was 2 days that I wasn't using them, and all of a sudden they threw like a whole different interface at me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it was 2 days since I came on here. You're gonna throw a million new things at me? Like, that's how fast things are moving.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But AI is a game changer for marketing, and I think for people on their own, if they learn how to use it properly and prompt it properly, and then everything needs to be like gone over with a human eye and a human touch and everything like that, because you can spot it in a second and it's awful. But it gives you an incredible advantage over your competitor. It gives you an incredible advantage in speed. We're able to produce from proposals to projects to clean up documents, remove certain, like, just even grammatically to clean everything up. It's a game changer. Designers are all using it for creatives. It's incredible.
Yeah,
So.
I think the way that and I know this is newer for people, but maybe, I don't know if you would describe the same way, is that I see, and they're even called, like, they're called agents, right? You create agents. I call them, like, they're assistants. So if you think about, if you had like an assistant that worked for you and you telling them what you want them to do. But okay, well, they just started. What do you have to do? You first have to tell them about your company. You have to tell them about your expectations. You have to tell them your tone. You have to tell them what you want, right? If it's a person that you're training, think about all the things you would tell them to get them educated around you and your company.
Always,
then once they know that, now they have a better feel, and now you can assign them projects. Now, again, they're not at your level, but they can execute the work that you want them to do. So it's how you tell them, how you explain to them
That's
what
why
you want.
prompting
Right.
is
Well,
a
that's
skill.
right.
Yeah.
People say prompting, but no one understands what that really means.
Yeah.
And that's like that
I've
again.
trained mine like incredibly well.
Right. It's just like you would train a person. And then
Exactly.
if your assistant came back and gave you a project and it wasn't what you wanted, you'd go back and say, no, that was not what I was looking for. This is what I'm looking for.
I ask it advice.
Right.
If you were XYZ, if you were Steve Jobs, how would you look at this project?
Exactly.
If you were, just to analyze different things, give me, like a real critical eye on things. It's unbelievable. Yeah.
Our initiative is so big around AI in the company that next year, and we're doing it slowly, and I think it's really important. You want to support your team. You want to, give them opportunities. It's a change of mindset, especially if you have people that have been doing things for a really long time a certain way. But if with the proper support and the proper structure and the proper training and proper tools, we will be requiring that people use those tools in their everyday work. There will be a metric in terms of how productive and they and like how, kind of the velocity change, like all right, and the output change.
There's
And
no more
those
excuses.
right, if those who refuse to get on board, there's not going to be a role for them. Like that's how firm we're going to be with it. Right. And I would say to anybody who is doing anything out there that if they're not having a mentality to improve their skills, to learn and to understand, and that doesn't mean go spend hours and not understand like anything, but it's properly putting your time into it, that you recognize for yourself, I need to understand how AI becomes an assistant to me in my role. If you're not doing that, you will lose all your leverage. I would say you won't have a job, or you will nowhere near be able to compete with others in the next year or two. Right now, if you get ahead of it, you have leverage. You have leverage if you're running your company. You have leverage to go work for a company if you understand how to do that. So like to me, this is like a really big window for people to go adapt it.
Yeah, especially I see with our kids, like the next generation,
Yes.
how they're like, they don't even, to them it's not Google, it's chat.
Yeah.
Like, Ma, ask chat.
Yeah.
Like, that's the way they, like, I want a recipe for something. Ma, could you ask chat? You know what I mean? To them, if that's how they're referencing AI, that's how AI is going to become literally second nature, and companies have to adapt to it.
That's
One of my
crazy.
employees said to me, like, I'm not a writer, I can't do that. I'm like, that is not an excuse today. Like,
Yes.
there's no such thing as I'm not a writer.
Right.
I mean, you have tools that are like literally at your fingertips that are writers for you. You know what I mean? And
But you go back to like, what are the skills that we're always going to have? Smart, strategic, right? People, relationships, all those things are like drivers, right? Those are the things that people like ChatGPT or any other AI is not going to be able to do. It's like those are the skills that like you have to have like really hone in. And by picking up the phone and calling a whole bunch of people and hearing them and understanding them and what they're looking for and communicating and learning to listen, like those are skills that no AI is ever going to replace.
That's true.
Okay, let's get in a little bit to yourself. So tell us, when did you get married? How many kids do you have? How did your family life play in as you were building this incredible company?
Okay. So I'm married 22 years. I have 7 children, Kanai Nahara. In the first at least 10 years, my husband was sitting and learning. Wow. So I supported the family at that point completely. About 10 years in, we started a company together that today is a beautiful company called Smarty Had a Party.
Is that the plates?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. I buy from that.
you
I did
do?
not know that. I didn't know that connection. That's great.
That's us. So he runs that. I stepped out about...
It's all disposable wear.
Yeah.
Very cool.
About 2-3 years into the business, I helped him with sales. I brought on some great clients. That was also like while I was building my own business and running this other business and being a mom.
Wow. Superwoman here.
It definitely was like a lot of juggling, but I was so determined to support my family. and do whatever it took. Today, he sits and learns a lot of the day, and the business is, he hires well, and it runs, and he's involved a couple hours a day. My oldest is turning 21. My youngest is going to be 4.
So share with us a little bit about how the support, because I know for myself and I know for a lot of women that are building the company that you build, running the company that you have, how supportive was he of you and in what ways? And do you think that that is really critical for a woman, especially with, who wants to live a very observant life, to have that support from their husband in order to be successful?
Yeah, so you for sure need the support. Support can mean a bunch of different things. It can mean just believing in you and saying you got this, and I'm here to pick up anything that falls. And that's really what happened in our home. My husband took the role of doctor's appointments, of dentist appointments, of driving a kid to school if they miss the bus, of homework when they come home majority of the week. There's a lot of sacrifice in building a business, and there's choices that are not always comfortable as an innate mother to make. I've been at, there have been times where I've had a lot of guilt, but then I think as you work through that guilt and you're like, but there's so much beauty in what I'm doing, and there's so much love that I'm able to bring into the home because I'm happy with what I'm doing. So, that balance things out. But I do think people look at anyone successful or anyone that built a significant business, both men or women, and they think it's just all glorious. But there's a lot of sacrifice, and there's a lot of pain, and there's a lot of growth, and growth is not always clear, and growth is not always easy. And I feel like that's something that when somebody is looking at somebody down the line, what they did, what they accomplished, remember, this person, it wasn't necessarily easy, and it needed, tremendous amounts of sacrifice, support, and everything.
What was one of the hardest things you had to do that you really needed that support for?
I think it's ongoing. It's keeping my schedule the way it is something that I constantly need that support, because, I'll hear from my kids. Okay, so I'll have these conversations with my kids. If someone will I'll hear a comment my friend's mother is always home when they come home from school, something like that. And I'll address it. I'm not going to say, I won't dismiss it. And I'll be like, okay, so let's talk about it. Does it bother you that I'm not home? Sometimes, okay, but aren't you lucky that your father's home, right? When you come home from school, and isn't it great? He does homework with you, and then you get 100 on your test because he's so smart. So we definitely address these things, but I think it's definitely a constant struggle for me that I have long, hard days and hours and traveling, and the support never gets tiring.
When you talk a little bit about guilt, now you say your oldest is 21, has that guilt shifted a little bit as you saw your children grow up?
Yes.
And probably have more adult conversations with you, and you could really see that maybe all those things you were worried about and all those things you feel guilty for didn't really affect your children? If anything, maybe it was in a positive way, that they look up to you as a role model, that they're inspired by you? Absolutely.
When I hear bits and pieces and tidbits, and as adults now, I have adults in my house, and we have conversations, they're proud. And I do make sure to include them in what I'm doing. I keep them up to date. I tell them something amazing that happened. I keep them into I keep them close in my business to a certain extent. That way they feel like we can celebrate the wins together, and we can celebrate a hard point. One of my kids came over to me and said, I went through a very hard period at a certain time, and I would just break down in tears. And I know my kids, I have a bunch of little girls, and they noticed. And I was like, I'm going to address it with them. Not always, it's okay sometimes to cry. I'm feeling hurt. It's okay to cry. Then they see you happy again, and they're like, oh, mommy's, and I'm like, everything's working out, and things, you go through the ups and downs, but as long as your kids feel like they're not shut out of your world, and they're really a part, they're so important, and they're part of your whole journey and your growth, I feel like I don't think they feel anything that they're missing.
So when you look back, and now that you are seeing your children as adults, would you have done anything differently?
No. I think I'm proud of my kids, tremendously, and I feel like I'm so proud of them, and I'm proud of their maturity.
Can you share a mistake that you made that, though, from that, changed you as a leader?
So how about I phrase it as a character trait?
Okay.
Because I think because of a lack of a certain character trait, mistakes kept happening. But once that clicks in your head, a character trait in being a leader is knowing how to ask for something and demanding it in a way that nobody feels that you're demanding of them. I think it took a lot of learning for me, because naturally I'm a people pleaser. I just want to make everyone happy. And it was a very, very hard thing for me to do, to establish myself as a leader in that sense of it's okay for me to demand and learn how to communicate, how to ask in a way that I don't feel like I'm being bossy. You know what I mean? So I think that a lot of mistakes happened because I let things go. I would like be scared to be firm about something. I didn't want to hurt anyone's feelings. I wanted everyone to be friends and everyone to be happy. And like you can keep something rolling a certain point until like things just blow up. But once you learn how, right?
Yes.
You're like
I know. Because I'm thinking that this is something also that women have a bigger challenge than men. And also often.
I had someone teach me how to communicate this.
Well, you know what I call this? It's getting comfortable having hard conversations.
I know, my gosh.
Like that's really what it is. And again, it goes back, even the best thing you can teach your kids is they get upset with you, right? They just want to go off to the room and they don't want to talk about it. It's like, no, you have to force the hard, you can say, I know sometimes it is hard to have these difficult conversations, but we need to have it because getting comfortable having hard conversations, the younger you get comfortable with it, the better, because as you get older in any relationship, you need to be able to have hard conversations.
I really thought I could get away with it.
Right,
And
but in
years
business,
and years,
right.
But then suddenly you hit a certain point and it's like the foundation isn't strong because you as a leader don't know how to demand.
Right. And
So,
people take advantage of you,
exactly.
and they'll look and they'll see, and
They'll
then
find
until
it.
you bring your authority to the table,
It's like core work.
Exactly,
Yeah.
you'll take advantage of you. No, I think that's a great one to be able to share with everyone. What was the scariest financial risk that you ever took?
Hiring, I think, was always something scary for me. Like I said, I didn't like the numbers, so every time I would have to like figure out the numbers, what kind of role I could hire, and still I think I struggle, not as much now, but I definitely did. So I think realizing that I'm bringing on people, I'm supporting these families, my business now has to support these families. It's like a responsibility. It's like another child almost, so I definitely think that was.
What's your superpower?
It's just moving forward. I think my superpower is I don't let things weigh me to a point that I go backwards.
Would you say that's like grit, that you have like a tremendous amount of grit?
Definitely grit. It's like it's a fight in me, and I think I've always been that way.
I think that's like when you were talking before about being successful, it's that I would say is one of the number one things you need to be successful is that tenacity, is that grit, is that you will just push forward, and you have to be passionate about it. You have to believe in what you're doing to be able to. But if you have that within you, just don't mess with those types of people, because it's done. Like it's kind of like if they set their mind to it, it's done. Like it may take a while, but it's done.
I look at myself though 10 years ago, and I was like even stronger. Like I feel like I'm mellowing as I'm aging.
You're learning. You're seeing what's out in the world. How much
I'm
harder
like mellowing in the sense of like,
okay,
don't have to fight for everything so hard. You know what I mean? Like it's okay. But I definitely fought. I fought.
What was the best piece of advice that you ever got?
So actually, that was in my year of seminary, and my teacher said it, and till today, it drives me. And she said a mashal of if you're looking like headaches, like parnasa, right, from Hashem. So she said, imagine like it's raining outside, and you come outside and you're holding a cup, or you decide to come outside and hold a bucket, right, which is a vessel for more, right? So always like in any business that if you're somebody that is like driven and motivated, think like, am I holding a cup or am I holding a larger vessel? That way I can get more from it.
I love that. That is great. I've never heard that before. That's awesome. Were you always like a leader? Like as a kid, like were you always like have the leadership skills?
So I led productions, right?
Okay. So you did.
I led a camp. I guess.
What's one thing that you would tell your younger self?
That the sacrifices are going to be worth it, and not to let the guilt, like we speak about, like hold you back, and to just, if you want something, just keep fighting for it,
I love it. That's great. Do you feel like there's a purpose? Like, are you driven? Do you feel like I have a purpose that I'm driving to that's like a big part of who I am today?
Not even a question. I definitely think that what I'm doing is definitely part of my purpose in life, and I think that's what motivates me and keeps me also so driven. Like I see the impact, I see the success, I see the results, I see like so much what we're doing is accomplishing so much that it's not even a question.
Is that like in the nonprofit part of it, that your impact is changing the community, even for profit? In what way? Because I think that's really interesting, because I know sometimes I think about the things I do for profit. I'm just like, okay, that doesn't really have an impact. And so my purpose has to be driven in a different way.
We're in a very different world. I'm in the Jewish world. And I feel like the more I'm helping businesses succeed, it's a ripple effect. Everyone is succeeding.
You're contributing to the community ecosystem.
I really do feel that way.
I like
so
that.
like my clients' success to me is like, thank you, Hashem. You know what I mean? Like we're doing more. It's an amazing, humbling feeling. So in both, not even a question.
I love that.
I've spoken. I've actually like had times that I wasn't sure. I would speak to a Rav or even like a big gadol, and like they would, even before I would even say, like they would say, keep doing what you're doing for Klal Yisrael.
That's
amazing.
Amazing.
So like it gives you that chazuk. Like, no, I'm doing this for the right purposes. I love what I'm doing, and I feel grateful that
you're lucky that what you're doing that is like creating a parnasa is, number one, something you're passionate about, but number two is like truly does have an impact on Klal Yisrael. Like that's really fortunate position to be in.
I feel very lucky.
A couple more questions for you. Have you found this journey to be lonely at times?
Yeah, 100%. I think a lot of people would say that. First of all, it's not something I'm proud of at all, but I lost a lot of friends along the way only because I couldn't keep up with relationships. And you give up, like I said, these are part of the sacrifices, right? So there's a few friends that I keep up with, but I look at my sisters or I look at my neighbors and they're all busy with going out and they're busy with friends, and it is lonely. It is definitely lonely. And I look around at other women my age or even my sisters, right? And they're busy with this friend and that friend, and they go out and even though they're in business, but I've definitely given up on those extracurriculars and taking time for myself to go for lunch or go out with friends. I don't do that. When I have the opportunity, rather home. So I've given, it's definitely lonely. Over the years, like I found certain friends that I was able to relate to in business, and we've developed a close friendship, but even so, it's not the same.
We have to get you to one of the GW Changemakers events, because that, like, we'll talk about that.
It's like a chut hamishulash.
It's a group of women that have very busy careers that are pretty lonely for the same reasons, and that come together once a year or twice a year and just get away from it all and can just talk, and it's so relatable in so many ways. And it's the biggest thing all of us will say is like, I always felt so lonely, and then it's just like would come here and it's like that loneliness is gone for that moment. So
that is very
nice.
And
it's important, and I think that it's amazing. And it's like what you said, the trade-offs, like you see incredibly successful women and everything does look very glorious and glamorous, and no one wants to trade it for anything else, but it doesn't come without the trade-offs, without the sacrifices.
Yep.
Okay, 2 more questions for you. The first is, if you look back at your journey, is there one moment that you're like was just most exciting, like news that you got, a client you got, impact your client had, like it just was like felt just that you remember like, wow, I'm so excited about my life, my business. Like what was that? Is there a moment that you can remember?
So 2 years ago, when Lakewood was considering to have Avi Schnell run for a position, and they came to my office, like, influential people, and they said, we just want to hire you to lay the groundwork. That way, the next cycle of elections, like he'll be able to win. So we're hiring you for stage 1. And I remember looking at them and saying, no, I can't, I'm not doing that. If you're hiring me, we're going to have a winner. And I remember that feeling, and it was a tremendous amount of like, again, right? It was a multi-directional campaign. A lot of different amazing things happened. But when he won that night, that feeling of like we did something, like we committed to something and we're like, we are in this to win it. Like, you're not hiring me second class. Like, I'm not being the one to lay the foundation. Like, if you're not winning, I'm not doing this. That was definitely a real highlight.
I love that story. And it goes along with everything you've shared today, that you're a winner. Like, you're a builder, you're a winner, and that's the way you're going to live your life in all aspects of it.
So.
And that, I think, is not surprising that you've had the success that you have, because you've told yourself that. It sounds like you were told that when you were younger. Your teachers clearly saw that in you. Your seminary teachers saw that in you. Your boss saw that in you. Your clients see that in you. And so it's a theme, if you think about it. But it does come, as you said, is like you have to believe it for yourself.
Yeah.
And when you believe it for yourself, and it's easier when your parents, and you grow up in a home that that tells you that message. But even if you don't, then you have to tell that message. You have to surround yourself with people
that are going to
make you feel that way, that confident that you are the winner, you are a builder, and you can do anything you set your mind to.
And not have any kind of guilt. I feel like the guilt is like such
a waste of
block.
space.
Yeah,
right?
it's like a roadblock. Yeah. Coming home and feeling like my family's supporting me, my husband's supporting me, is a game changer because you can keep fighting for what you love to do.
All right, final question. I want to give you the opportunity to leave a final message for our audience. What would that be?
May sound totally crazy on an episode like this, but that entrepreneurship isn't for everybody, and it's okay. So if it's something that you really, really want and you're going to fight for it and go through the sacrifices and really work hard, then keep going. But if there's something holding you back that's like nagging in your head that's telling you to do otherwise, it's okay. It's not for everybody.
I actually think that's a great message.
Yeah?
Yes, it is. It's really coming from, I don't need to do what everyone else is doing. I need to listen to what's good for me. Making sure that doesn't get confused with things aren't just going well right now. Maybe this isn't for me, but more of really in the gut understanding. And also a great piece of advice that I recently got was if you want to know if it's your gut telling you not to do something or if it's just you afraid or there's fear, then think about how you feel once that whatever you're doing is successful. And if after that happened, would you feel good or would you feel not good?
That's
and then
so true.
you know if it's like fear or if it's
So
gut.
true. Yeah.
And so help not to confuse those things. So this is really
Thank
incredible
you.
opportunity to sit with you. I am so excited about everything you're doing, and it's such an amazing thing for Klal Yisrael, and it's so inspiring. And I really appreciate that you took the time. And I know that people who are listening to this episode, I know I learned a tremendous amount today. And I know that everyone else is going to really appreciate everything that you shared. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
This episode was made possible by our friends at Roth & Co. We are grateful for their continued partnership. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and that you'll join us for the next one. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to rate us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also watch this conversation on YouTube, so be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Until we meet again, stay inspired to lead.